When you scroll Facebook and you count on Facebook to give you the content that you want to read, it's like you're going up to Mark Zuckerberg every morning, knocking on his door and saying, "Hey, Mark Zuckerberg, what should I read this morning?" Or you could just support the Babylon Bee. BabylonBee.com/plans. You can subscribe. You get full-length podcasts, ad-free podcasts. You get ad-free web browsing on our site, premium content. At certain levels, you even get access to a little social network that our friends at Not the Bee have created.
Yeah, be part of the community, the in crowd, the bee crowd. Oh, hello there. Well, where is everybody? I'm all alone on this podcast. Trevor is going to join me. We're having comedian Brent Pella in today, and you may know Brent if you're a JP Sears fan. He does a lot of videos with JP Sears, but a while back I put a call out that I just wanted to have comedians on, and Brent saw that I had said you don't have to be a Christian, you don't have to be a libertarian, because Kyle always wants all these libertarians all the time, and so he's like, hey, I'm neither of those. So we had him on. We wanted to talk about the state of comedy, and Brent I think fits with us well topically, because Brent is a guy who was never that political, but then suddenly when comedy became very one-sided politically, he's kind of going, there's all these jokes nobody's making on the other side, and he started just making them. So he's gotten somewhat more political, but for him, we would just talk about that weird empty space that's being left open by people that won't touch certain jokes. And so we talked to him a lot about that. We talked to him about working with JP Sears, state of comedy. It was a fun conversation, and it was funny because he was very respectful about not swearing on the show until we let him know, oh, you can if you want to. We'll just bleep it. And then he may have broken the record. I don't know yet, but I know that he gave Patrick a lot of work. So we're gonna jump in here with Brent Pella, and if you want to check out Brent Pella's work, you can go to his website, brentpella.com. He's on tour. He's going all over the country, doing shows, doing stand-up comedy, and he's also on Instagram and YouTube. That's Brent Pella. I'm sure the name will pop up on the screen here, and you can see him and check him out. Let's get to that interview. Oh, hello there. Welcome to the Babylon Bee interview show. Holy cow, Brent Pella's here in studio.
Hello, everybody.
Comedian Brent Pella. And we have sitting in for Kyle, because Kyle's busy. He's with the family doing something. We got Trevor. I remembered to not call you Travis, and I forgot your last name.
I appreciate that. Thanks, Nathan.
I'm having a weird...
Put in the effort.
Yeah, right.
Mental block with Trevor's name right now. I don't know why. We're friends. We hang out all the time.
That's sure.
I have weird issues. So welcome to the... How did you end up here? I think I put out a call for comedians.
No. Yeah.
Is that what was it from that?
It was a couple months ago on Twitter. It must have been you. Somebody wrote like the Babylon Bee is looking for comedians to join the podcast.
It's an interview, yeah. Talk.
Yeah, and in the tweet was like, you don't have to be libertarian or Christian. Mm-hmm. And I was like, cool, I'm in. I'm in. Because I think you guys are hilarious. The Babylon Bee concepts are so funny, and I thought it would be a fun time. Yeah.
Cool, yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, who knows what we're in for here. But yeah, I think it's interesting to talk to comedians. For one thing, because comedians have thoughts on everything, because they're always trying to think about stuff. And also the climate that we're in with comedy, it's just interesting to talk to anybody who's trying to do comedy right now.
Yeah.
And so you definitely don't shy away from topics that might anger people.
Yeah. I actually enjoy that, because if everybody can be angry at me, then that means they're unified, and I'm creating unification in the world. Yeah. Yeah, man, it's been a weird kind of evolution of what I've
been doing over the past year, as soon as the pandy hit,
The old pandy.
it's a pandy, baby. Back in like March 2020, I started my brain just started firing differently when I was seeing everything that was happening with like rules and regulations, and people's hyper politicization of things was getting even more hyper. And so throughout the past year, I just tried to keep my mind open enough to have kind of an open season on whoever I thought deserved a little mocking or parody or whatever, regardless of who got mad.
And there's so many sacred cows you're not allowed to make fun of right now.
Yeah, there's a lot.
But which does leave a huge opening for people that are willing to go there, which is how we've thrived.
Right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. It like for me, it's a matter of, is it funny to me first and foremost? Right. And if it is, I'm going to do it. And if it's, I'm not going to do something that's not funny to me just because I know it'll appeal to a certain demographic. I'd rather do something that's funny to me, and then whatever demo also think that's funny, I have faith that they'll find me. So that's kind of kept me going throughout the past years. I make fun of, people on the left that nobody's mocking, or a couple people on the right that everybody seems to be mocking. I'd never tried to take a political side with it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's one of the more infuriating things when you're in the arts and any kind of creative endeavor is you see those people that it feels like they're clearly pandering to the audience.
Yeah.
And I can't even bring myself to do that. I don't know how they do it. And it makes me mad in one way that I wish I could, but also that it's working so well. Yeah. I'm sure you've seen comedians like that just, they know how to write the script that just gets the laughs, but you don't know that they're, I don't know. Is it genuine? Are there ungenuine?
Well, there's a lot of, you get clapter too.
Yeah, the clapter. That's big.
Nightmare. I mean, you see that live on stage at stand-up shows I've done. People will say certain things or work in certain bits, and it's cringy to me because I'm like, are they doing this just to get polite applause for 10 seconds? What's the agenda here?
Right.
So that's something I've just consciously tried to suppress, is any type of agenda. Besides, however, my own agenda of just laugh if something's funny, and look at the absurdity of the world, rather than the agenda of everyone on this side of the aisle is bad, or everyone on this side of the aisle is a commie, or whatever. A lot of people out there.
Do you segregate your shows like that?
I do, actually. I do. Left side for fascists, right side for commies, and I have 2 seats for libertarians at every show. And
complimentary joints.
Yeah. They get a joint and a bullet, and that's I placed them on the libertarian seats. But it's been it's been really interesting. I've had a lot of really cool and strange and mind-opening experiences talking to people about this kind of stuff over the past year. And it's really, to me, the more people talk about how crazy stuff is, the less crazy it can become.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
I found that super helpful just with that helped me. Joe Rogan podcast, and Jordan
Our
Peterson,
Lord and Savior,
all these guys, just talking about it, that stuff you're not supposed to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's crazy how much trouble you can get in just for having a conversation too with the right people.
Oh yeah.
That's actually something I was wondering about. Have you has this this new take that you have kind of pigeonholed you with some people? They call you conservative.
Oh
or
yeah,
right-wing
dude. It's I've never it's you feel the energy coming out of me right now. So prior to March 2020, I so didn't care about politics.
Yeah.
If you had asked me for the definition of a liberal, conservative, and libertarian, I would have flipped you off and ran away. I literally could not care less. The only time I did politics was a quick and silly Pete Buttigieg impression. That was just him with a hat that has the helicopter thing on it, playing with toys. You know what I mean? That's the only dip.
Oh, that's the only way I can
into
see
politics.
Pete Buttigieg now.
Right. That's who he is.
Homophobe.
Yeah.
And so I was culturally relevant in all my work leading up to that with celebrity impressions or trending topics in the news. And then 2020 hit and I started dipping into politics and things. And as soon as I did, my sense of humor just gravitated toward the things that were not being made fun of very much by late night shows, stand-up comics, character comics, video comedians, because I don't want to do the things that are already being done. I want to challenge myself by finding new ways to point out the absurdities of the world. And there were certain absurdities, in my opinion, that a lot of people weren't really touching on. And most of them just happened to lean left. So a majority
no one's touching them.
Yeah, no one's touching them. Like, you don't see people mocking. No one has done a Gavin Newsom impression besides Seth Meyers' brother on a Seth Meyers late night show months ago. And it was like, it still kind of held him up.
Yeah.
Did you guys do an impression?
We did animation.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. I actually saw that. Yeah. Did you really?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, we had two of them. One with where the impractical jokers were telling him what to say for his speech.
Oh, that's funny.
And then the other where he's running around telling everybody in California that they can open now, and there's like ghosts.
It's just like a ghost town.
Yeah, so like I saw, everybody and their mothers mocking Trump for being a loud orange idiot, and like, fine, he should be mocked, but it's already being done.
Yeah.
And everybody is just so hating on the right, that there was no new avenue to pursue there. So like, what aren't people mocking that I also think is absurd? And it ended up being a lot of Gavin, a lot of Biden, a lot of policies that a lot of folks on the left were starting to put into action during COVID. And so that's kind of how I a lot of my content, and also like the stereotypical far left person. It's easy to make fun of the stereotypical far right person. It's like, don't take my guns and blah, 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 blah. And it's like that. A lot of people are mocking that, and like, fine, but like there's a whole other realm to pursue here.
Yeah.
But as soon as I started doing that, I would get comments and messages like, whoa, bro, you're conservative now? Whoa, dude. Whoa, didn't know you were so fringe, dude. Dang, dude. Where's the Trump rally tonight? And I was just like, man, I'm a comedian, dude. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, some stuff is hitting on the left, but you don't call someone who makes fun of Republicans a liberal comedian. But now, as soon as you make fun of liberals, you're labeled as a conservative comedian. And to me, that's just not fair. Unless you are very obviously doing unapologetically conservative content, like the Hodge twins, right?
Like, the conservative comic. Right?
Yeah,
Right.
and they're hilarious. Like,
Yeah.
big props to those guys. They're doing their thing. It's great.
Like Steven Crowder and all those guys. Yep.
Yeah. And so, but like for me, I'm doing so much different stuff. So I just found it like really frustrating. But it's also been a great learning experience to see like, wow, people are so quick to label you these days just to avoid confrontation with their own like beliefs.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that whole rant there just erased half of our questions. What else do you want to talk about?
What do you think it is because I'm always curious about comedians like you. People are they're kind of bubbling to the surface because the ones that are willing to joke about both sides and go hard on the left just as hard as they will on the right. I'm curious what it is about either their personality or their upbringing. I know some of them maybe grew up in, I don't know where you grew up. If you grew up around conservatives and you don't just blanketly hate them all and just think they're those bad people, they're Nazis.
Right. Or what is it about your upbringing that made you like want to like willing to fight?
Sure. Yeah. That's interesting. I was raised by a single mom, still have a great relationship with my dad, but my mom was very, my mom and my dad, when I was growing up, were both very left, very liberal, I guess. I don't know if I'm still trying to learn about the terminology type stuff.
It shifts around. It doesn't really make
weird,
sense.
Dude. But they were very liberal. They voted Green a lot. My mom loved Hillary her whole life. And dad took me flyering for Nader when I was 10.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
So you were abused as a child. That explains a lot.
So I grew up in a yurt. It was wonderful, No one wore clothes. And I grew up in Davis, California, adjacent to Berkeley in its values and belief systems.
All right.
And it was great. But my mom raised me without any specific religious ideology. Instead, she allowed me to learn and take from different religious institutions and belief systems, because she was raised Italian Catholic, and did not end up bringing me to church, just kind of like gave me books to read and stuff like that.
Italian Catholic, right?
Oh, dude, we got so much to talk about, buddy. And so she kind of raised me to be really open-minded about things. So now my belief system now is like I pull from all these different places, and I think that foundation translated to now when I'm performing or thinking about topics or allowing ideas to enter my mind, it's not with a set path. It's more open to anything. So I think that's really helped. Just kind of that foundation of being so open-minded.
I think that's rare. I found fascinating when we interviewed Larry the Cable Guy. He hit guys from the South or just Middle America. They love making fun of themselves. Like that's their whole act.
Yeah,
they could go off on liberals, but they don't. They go off on themselves.
Yeah.
And for liberal comedians, generally, they can't make fun of themselves.
Yeah.
They can't go hard like those guys do. And I'm curious, how do you? Yeah, because I find it fascinating. You came out of that world, but you were able to make fun of yourself or your own culture that you grew up in.
Yeah, and it's also been cool in the past year hanging out with more people on the right, because my whole life I'm around people that are like left leaning or very liberal in this liberal community, and it's a farm town, so there's your conservative families and like police families and folks like that. But the past year, I've been hanging out a lot with my buddy JP Sears, who's the red-haired comedian that I do a lot of videos with. I started to brand him as just the red-haired guy. The guy with red hair.
He looks like a WWF wrestler from the 80s with like a Disney princess hair.
Oh, he'd love that.
And he's got the voice of a guy who is not ripped. Like he's got the voice of a guy
He's got a very peaceful tone,
Yeah.
but then you see him and he's like jacked.
Is he a robot? That's actually something I wanted to know.
Not that I know of, but maybe. But I love JP. He's awesome, and he, we have our disagreements, we have our agreements, and we have talked at length about a ton of different things, especially during COVID times, and that's given me this new avenue of thinking. Like, wow, maybe that is right. These things, these distinct topics, you can have an opinion on those that's different than what I would have had if I had stayed in my hometown forever. Yeah.
Totally. What do you think JP Sears' wrestler persona would be if he was a WWF wrestler?
I think he'd be like that. Like
I imagine he'd be like a Ric Flair kind of like.
Well, he's always doing the hippie character with a.
That's true.
With the flower
So I
headband.
could just maybe he would be like a vegan.
the fire vegan or something cool. It's got to be like a cool name.
Yeah, the vegan. It got to rhyme. So what rhymes with vegan? The vegan.
Nothing good.
Tuskegee.
The Tuskegee vegan. I guarantee
We like
you that's
JP
already a
Sears.
wrestler in some.
Oh, for sure. In Tuskegee.
Yeah.
Right?
Or, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
What about
It's been weird, man. It's been a weird
It
time.
has been.
Yeah.
What do you think of people that are like? We were talking about doing a skit or like some kind of a sketch about. You can't steal this. The show.
I didn't sign anything.
The show. What's that one where the people do the drugs and the family surrounds them? Intervention.
Oh, funny.
We do an intervention for a person that's like addicted to masks.
That's funny.
And they're just like, they wear like 3 masks.
17.
And they wear them in the car.
masks
and
coming
they're-
out like a foot.
They're
from
in
the face.
Alaska in the tundra and they have a mask.
What was that? 6 feet of masks that you have to wear.
You just can't breathe. You're slowly dying from lack of oxygen.
Yeah, that's.
I think it's, I don't know.
It keeps happening. They had some runners.
Oh, that happened, right?
Yeah, somebody was wearing a mask while running a race. And
dude.
It's like a high
passed out.
school or something,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Oh man, the craziest thing, dude, I can't believe that it's still around. It's like they're making like there were college basketball games and the players were wearing a mask while they were playing. And it's like, bro, you're like sweating on each other.
Yeah, I know. Seriously.
You're literally like exchanging bodily fluids. And you're going to wear a mask. And then in the NBA, the rule was, okay, you don't have to wear a mask when you're playing, but you have to wear it when you're sitting down.
That's what
And
I don't
was like,
understand.
dude, what's going on? What are we doing?
Do these like halfway measures work for a virus? Is a virus
No,
like
like within 10, you don't even have to be Fauci to understand that within 10 minutes you're yelling at people
if
on the
the virus
court.
is present? Doing half of the stuff is not going to make it less likely.
Not to mention they all got tested an hour prior to the game,
Right.
and everybody's negative. So what do you think? It's just going to be like, oh, okay, the test is done. You're positive now. Like, what
Right.
the logic is so not there. It's crazy. I'm praying that it just starts dissolving this summer though, because I'm so sick of that.
Everybody's been making rules for us to follow, but I don't know why. They should start making rules for the virus. The virus is no longer allowed on the basketball court.
Yeah, give the virus a curfew.
Yeah,
dude. I want to go party again. Tell the virus it can't come out until morning.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, why isn't Fauci on that one?
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird, dude. It's people just get so wrapped up into these beliefs just because they see it in a headline or because they're like extrapolating this one thought into like some big fake picture of, okay, well, 2 masks, probably. Yeah.
Well, obvious. I mean,
Yeah.
not breathing would
Right.
solve it.
Yeah. Well, walking, I still see
Not
people
sweating.
walking their dog by themselves outside with masks on. And
know.
it's just like, and freedom of choice for sure. But also like, where's that choice coming from?
I heard somebody
You know?
say that like their parent, I don't know if I heard this on a show or on a friend or something. I heard it. Someone said their parent got vaccinated, but they don't want to stop wearing their mask because they don't want people to think they're a Republican.
Dude. Like, that's mind blowing.
That is sick.
That is so crazy.
I think that's a good like one of the main reasons people are still wearing masks is to show people that they support the efforts or something. I mean, it's got to be support.
Yeah. The mask, once you start talking about like the hypotheticals of the past year, the mask conversation is just so silly because it at the beginning, you know, and at the beginning it was like, yeah, let's all wear masks. We didn't know what the hell was going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
We were just like, yeah, let's wear masks. We're being told they work. Let's wear them in stores. Let's wear them around people. And then by like June and July, we had so much data
Right.
about who specifically the virus affects and like where people are getting it from and et cetera, et cetera. And so then it was still being like the mask thing was enforced on a governmental level. And I started being curious, like why aren't we leaving it up to businesses to require the masks if they want, and then like sharing more specific information about the demographics of who the virus affects and like helping people make better decisions for themselves so that we could ease out of this forced kind of like pseudo totalitarian type thing. I know that sounds extreme. I'm not, no one was trying to like take over the country, but it's like, these mandates. I just feel like we could have eased out of them sooner and still been on a good road. But I'm not a politician. I'm a dummy. So I just get to vent on podcasts instead of make policies.
But and that's why I like talking to comedians, because the essence of comedy is to say the thing everybody's thinking, but they're afraid to say it, or they shouldn't say it, or because there's always that element of naughtiness to what you say in a joke, right? You have to say that thing makes everybody go like,
yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
And that's why in this climate, there's so much to say or not if you're being careful, but clearly you're not being careful.
No, I'm done being careful. Cancel me, please.
Right. That's a good. That's another question. Actually, has anyone tried to cancel you?
No, I'm not.
Blogged about?
I'm not big enough at all. Okay. But I'm hoping to one day be
You
big
got to
enough.
get there, yeah.
Yeah, I just want somebody to take one of my podcast clips out of context and try and ruin my life so that I can get more followers. And actually have a career. No, the cancel stuff. JP almost he got canceled. Well, people tried to. It didn't work. I don't know if it's ever really worked unless somebody really deserved it. But like for something silly, like saying something on a podcast, they try to cancel Joe Rogan every other day.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, he's just like talking on a podcast. Don't listen if you don't want. The cancel stuff is so. It's borderline out of control, but I also think it's becoming a parody of itself at this point. When people try to cancel something, they're immediately mocked. Like they're kind of starting to be ignored, and it's just such a small percentage of people online, but it's the loudest people. So it's just like the whole cancel culture thing. It's starting to, from my perspective, it's starting to become a parody of itself, and it's like laughable. You know,
Yeah, I think that the only people it's really been effective against are just regular people. Like I remember one of the first people that were in the news for getting canceled. There was a lady who made a joke on her way to Africa, and when she landed, she lost her job and everything.
Oh yeah,
I don't know what
that.
Yeah, and she was just some lady, and and so I mean, she doesn't have a fan base that she can fall back on. She's not,
Right.
Yeah, I wonder whatever became of her.
She died.
I think she wrote a book.
Did she?
And like did really well.
Oh, good. See, well, there you go.
So
that's actually
if you get canceled. Write a book.
Yeah, so cancel me. I don't know what I have to say, but I'll just repeat her joke.
And it's also like, in essence, when you boil cancel culture down to the fundamental element of it, people should be called out for doing objectively bad things, right? But at what point, I think the question becomes, at what point should somebody's life and career be fully over with no possibility of retribution? Is that the right word to use in the sentence? Sure. Or whatever. Or like with no possibility of coming back, right? Mm-hmm. So like, for example...
redemption, to be able to get forgiven or...
Right. So an example is like Nick Cannon, right? I don't know if you remember what happened with him. On his podcast, he said some things that were taken as very anti-Semitic and conspiratorial against Jewish people and against white people. And he got his show taken away, and like everybody hated him online. But like within days, he issued an awesome, heartfelt apology, which was one of the best ever. And his apology wasn't selfish or like, he wasn't like saying like, screw you guys, I did what I did and whatever. It was like legit. And then he had rabbis on his podcast to help him learn about what he said and why it could have been wrong or taken out of context, or why his thoughts could have been misled. And it was this wonderful and now he has a show back, and that's a wonderful example of somebody being called out and then learning from it, right? But then you got people that are trying to cancel you for like, he's saying, hey, I don't want to wear a mask at Whole Foods anymore. And it's like, that, you're going to spend your time trying to hate this person for like a silly belief? Like, just let them believe what they want to believe. So,
that's why I found the Gina Carano situation so fascinating, because
that was another
one. A lot of that is like, because the basis of what really canceled her was taking her tweet, which, about, I can't remember what was it, like the Nazi thing, we shouldn't all hate each other was basically what she was saying.
Yeah.
And just completely reading into it. So it was insane. And so to even apologize for a thing she wasn't even saying.
Right.
There's no apology to be made there. I mean, she can just say, sorry, I didn't mean to, whatever. Right. I think she's done that profusely. But.
Yeah, and on that, like losing her job over a tweet, dude.
Over a stupid, and a tweet that was clearly well-intentioned, that was saying we shouldn't all hate each other, was really what she was saying.
Sure, and even so, even if the tweet like hurt a lot of people or was offensive, if she issues an apology for it and the apology is heartfelt, let it go. It's a tweet.
Yeah, seriously.
What are we doing?
Clearly there's something else going on there. That's the thing. Those are the ones that kind of freak me out. I'm also encouraged though, like as I watch, she didn't back down and just like, I don't know what the caving would have been to say like, oh, I'm a horrible racist homophobe. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have been that way. I don't know what. I come to your side. I'm going to vote for Joe Biden. Whatever she would have to say to get everybody to let her back on the show.
Yeah.
But like I saw that they had like canceled her Bear Grylls episode that she was going to be on, and now they're uncanceling that.
Yeah.
So there's all these kind of like steps. I don't know.
Yeah.
And people have to like admit like it was kind of crazy that we had canceled her over that.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I've been hearing rumors from the YouTube, the comics people, they're saying that Disney's trying to get her back now, and I don't know if any of that is true, but it's it's probably getting clicks for sure.
Yeah, it gets clicks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how did you you got into doing impressions? Was that always something you sought to do, or did it something you fell into, or how did you become an impression guy?
Dude, I was always terrible. I still don't think I'm great at impressions, but they're really fun. It's something I'm working on a lot. But it was one of those things that I just wasn't good at. And that's, again, like I wanted to explore that because I'd never done it. So it It was a challenge, and it started with celebrities and rappers, Eminem and G-Eazy, Post Malone, all of your favorite musicians, I'm sure.
Love 'em, yeah.
Yeah, and
Can't get enough.
can't get enough of that Post Malone. And it started there, and now it's politicians, which is fun to pick apart politicians because they're all terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not all terrible. I mean, they are. Who am I kidding? But the impression thing was fun, and the one that blew up recently was the Gavin Newsom one, which was really cool to see. Yeah.
Yeah, he's definitely got because you think, we're in California, people here don't like Gavin Newsom, but outside of there, who cares about other people's governors?
Right.
But yeah, the anger at Gavin Newsom is nationwide enough at this point that those videos do really well.
Yeah. It was, I didn't know who he was a year and a half ago. I didn't know my governor's name.
Yeah.
Dude, I've never voted in a governor election ever. And now I got to worry about this guy, not telling us data. What? It drove me crazy. So in the fall, I put out a bunch of impression videos, and that was the one impression where I was really aiming for him. I think almost every impression I've done is of people I really love and respect. Rogan, Eminem, The Rock, these people that I have an admiration for. And then when I started doing Gavin, it was like, the admiration isn't quite there. So this is definitely loading one up and taking aim and firing.
Yeah.
But that was fun too, because that was how can I keep this funny and happy, but at the same time, there's some bites in those videos. There's some lines that are written specifically to call him out, and that's part of the shift in my comedy over the past year. Is if I'm going to have a message to this, it's going to be the message calling out absurdity. It's not going to be the message calling out right-wing people for being stupid or calling out left-wing people for being extreme. It's going to be what are stupid things that I see people doing specifically, and how can I call out those behaviors and actions? And that really came to life with the Gavin videos, which was fun. Yeah.
And so now he's got to run against Bruce. Oh wait, Caitlyn Jenner.
Yeah.
Oh, you're not voting for Caitlyn? You're not?
I haven't decided.
Oh, you haven't decided yet?
Yeah, I haven't. Somebody was saying that they went to her website or his or whatever. I don't know what's going to get me in trouble with the fans of the Babylon Bee.
Say them both so that you get
Here's
canceled.
her website. It doesn't have policies. It just has it has donations and a merch store.
Oh my god!
I love the idea of
merch
Republicans.
store. That's hilarious.
Merch store.
Yeah.
That's so funny. Yeah, dude. I don't even know the other candidates.
Yeah.
I mean,
I do love the idea of the Republicans voting in the first trans elected official or governor, just because I don't know what the left would do with that.
I want her to run with Kanye.
That's one of those math gifts,
Yeah.
With Kanye, yeah. Who would be the vice governor? I don't
West
know.
and Jenner.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about president, baby.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I want Caitlyn and Kanye in the White House.
Jenner
for
West.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to ruin the country, just ruin it.
Oh yeah. Let's go. Let's take
it
it back to step one. Here.
Have you ever thought about becoming a fat comic?
No. Is that a path?
Option?
Yeah. Well,
There's
Ralphie
openings,
May's dead, and so is John Pinditteri.
There's openings.
I forget.
The lane is open.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
it's
is.
open. Yeah.
No, I'm thinking of trying to become the first supermodel comic. Yeah. So plastic surgery is coming soon, and I'm gonna get an additional 6-pack installed, so I have a 12-pack. And
Have you ever thought about becoming a black comic? Or
dude, I had a DM recently, so sometimes I get people that
that's a dungeon master
send
for
me,
everybody who doesn't know. It's a dungeon.
Sometimes people will send me sketch video ideas, and somebody sent me one a couple of months ago in my DMs on Instagram, and it said "Hey man, love your stuff. Got a video idea for you. Feel free to use it. You don't need to credit me." Anytime it starts with that, it's trouble.
This is free. Yeah, I get that all the time.
Yeah.
Here's a free one for you.
He said, "What if you were a guy who owns an ice cream shop?" but you're wearing blackface. And the ice cream shop is only open to white people, but the white people have to be wearing blackface so that you're like woke and supporting black culture, but also maintaining your whiteness. IDK could be funny. And I was like, dude, no more suggestions. I'm not
Blocked.
taking any more entries for video ideas.
If you want to get canceled,
Yeah, that's how to do it. If I really want my following to go up with the wrong crowd, I have the concept that'll do it.
That's the worst when you see the comment on your video from like someone who's clearly like a white supremacist. You're like, no, we're not trying to like get you on board here.
right?
No, you missed the joke.
Yeah, man. Let me ask you guys a question. So you're both
please do.
you're both libertarians, yes? Is that
I'm
what
not
you'd say?
officially libertarian.
Oh,
Kyle
okay.
is the more libertarian. He's not here.
Yeah, Kyle is libertarian. I'm somewhere in between.
Some kind of a
libertarian and
conservative-ish guy.
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't necessarily like label yourself one way or the other, like strong.
Yeah, if I had to pick one, I'd say conservative, but that has so much baggage too.
Yeah,
so-
I don't
Sure.
label myself anymore. Everything keeps changing. So,
Interesting. Because it's something, again, like it's only been the past maybe 14 months that I've really dove headfirst into trying to have a better grasp on the political concepts of this country.
Mm-hmm.
And, if you're holding a gun to my head before they take them all away and you told me to choose, I don't know what I would choose. I would choose, I'm in the middle of everything. And in the middle to me is libertarian, or it seems to be, because it's so based in freedom, but also has qualities of the liberal perspective. Like Joe Jorgensen's campaign had something about ending the war on drugs and releasing a bunch of people from their charges of nonviolent drug-related crimes. I love that. I'm in 100%. So I'm curious what as two people who might not fully side with one specific side, what has it been like from your perspective watching all this like hyper politicization of everything? Like do you find it ridiculous? Do you find more people moving toward the middle? Or do you, from your perspective, do you see people gravitating toward one end of the spectrum?
On one hand, it's like the slippery slope that everybody argued is coming true. Mm-hmm. When you're in the conservative side of things and you feel like you're seeing the country coming this way where it's like, yeah, we really do want to arrest you or destroy your life for just having certain beliefs. On the other hand, one thing I found fascinating in the Trump era was the way that the umbrella, what's the word? The tent got bigger.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you're on a Christian podcast, like,
Right.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I've consciously been not cursing.
Oh, we've got some great bleeps for you though.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, we do like the cable TV thing where it puts a different word over your mouth.
Oh, that's funny.
That's kind of fun.
Yeah. So drop a couple F-bombs. We'll see how it goes.
Okay, cool.
Flower bed.
You guys are
Turnip.
You're gonna have to
Hacksaw.
cut all this.
Donkey. Hacksaw.
Okay.
These poor guys, now they got their work cut out.
Yeah, we just gave them a lot of extra
Write down
work.
Donkey.
Time codes, dude. I see you back there.
I hope they let one slip through.
We've had that happen. I was like, oh, I missed one. The ones are like, wait, is that a cuss word? I don't know.
Somebody's grandma's going to be real mad.
Yeah, I don't know. What do you think on the answer on that one?
That's a good question. Let me ask you another one. So I don't have an opinion. It seems to me that the conservative tent you said is getting wider, and I think that a lot of people who considered themselves liberal are now having to consider themselves more right wing just because that center has shifted.
Yeah, it has
further,
yeah.
And so I think that a lot of the people who were supporting Trump were not conservatives. They were, I think a lot of them were liberals. And I think that if conservatives and liberals ever defeat the leftists, that I think that'll probably go back to splitting up again. But it seems
And
like
when you say leftist, you're talking about like the progressive set
hard
of
woke
liberals.
Yeah.
Far left.
Because
kinda
liberals tend to
militant.
believe in freedom. more than
Like traditional liberals.
correct
From the, yeah.
like
okay.
the Democrats from
yesteryear.
From the root word liberal.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Well, not classic liberals because those are closer to libertarians, but So I think that it's if we defeat the progressives and the critical race theory cultists, then I think that we'll probably end up kind of dividing again to a
More stable
hopefully remember
balance.
the
to a
good times we
Republican
had.
and Democrat kind
Yeah.
of thing. But I don't know if that'll ever happen, to be honest. So.
Yeah, it's interesting, man, because like you just said, you might typically say conservative, but in your words, it has a lot of baggage right now. And it's just crazy that like one party has become demonized when really, like, let's demonize the far extent of that party. The dudes with tiki torches and all the people, you know what I mean? The crazies. Demonize them
demonize
because
jerks.
they're bad. Yeah, demonize jerks. Demonize.
Flower bed. Donkey. Donkey.
And, okay, so, but it's just crazy because, I mean, the far right, the far left, demonize those people. It's just so absurd that we've demonized this political party for their beliefs, and that's throughout history. They've held pretty much the same beliefs, and now all of those sudden those beliefs are going to lead to the end of democracy. Like, no, dude, just have the debate. Like the most recent example is the Georgia voting law, right? Mm-hmm. And how a lot of Republicans want to introduce IDs to require you to vote. Now, they don't have factual evidence to support that, to necessitate ID voting. I think we should evolve to a place where we have ID voting, but statistically, anytime you require IDs, there's less voting that happens, and then Republicans win that election. That's just a statistic. So it begs the question.
I think that's a great idea.
Well, that's the thing is like, what's the real reason that they're requiring the IDs? Is it because like really, really, really they believe you should have to prove your citizenship? Or is it because they know that statistically when you enforce ID voting, Republicans win those elections? That's just a fact. And so it begs that question. But the immediate demonization of that to say, well, you hate immigrants.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's what
racism.
And it's racist to require IDs. Like, no, it's not racist to require IDs. And if we're going to evolve to a point, then let's make sure everybody can easily get IDs and then require them everywhere. For sure. Mm-hmm. But let's do it logically and don't call them racist for wanting citizens to prove that they're citizens.
Yeah.
So
prove that they're allowed to vote.
Yeah. And it's just like, it's this. There's no room for debate anymore. It's like, who can have the snappiest headline, the snappiest tweet that's going to get them a lot of press?
It's usually us that has the snappiest headline.
It's true.
It's usually us.
It's true. You guys got some snappers. Yeah. So that's just one example. It's just interesting.
For sure.
That we're so quick to hate.
So ID laws create Republican victories.
There's a study on that.
But only in the U.S. though, because I imagine that in France where they require them, they don't get Republicans winning.
Right. Because also in France, everybody hates each other anyways. Okay. So
it'd be hilarious if just Ted Cruz got elected over there just because of their ID laws.
Suck blue.
Ted Cruz is going to clean up these frogs.
Speaking of demonization, that's one thing I think about that freaks me out. Like, I feel like if I honestly try to assess what I think a liberal, like my liberal counterpart or someone on the left is thinking, my assessment of them is like, they have good intentions. They want, they're worried about women's rights. They don't want women to be stuck with a baby they don't want. Like things like that. Like, I feel like I'm being pretty honest about their intentions. But I feel like the assessment of me is like racism, homophobia, hate, like things like I can't even get out from under. Like, I don't know how to bridge that. Like my intentions have been assigned to me, and that's the thing that I don't know how to, and except for people like yourself who just seem to have and I don't know where you get it. I wish more people had it. And I think more people do have it. I think it's the loudmouths on Twitter and stuff that don't.
It's really suppressed.
But it makes you think most people think like that. If you lean left at all, then you think I'm a homophobe and a bigot and all that stuff.
Right.
And it just shuts down conversation.
Yeah, and it sucks because you can have disagreements with people and
Right.
be civil. Like
It's fun to talk about it if you can talk about it.
Dude, I went back home recently up to Davis, and I was doing shows up there like 2 weeks ago. And
Davis where?
California.
Okay. Oh, yeah. I forgot you were from California.
Yeah. It's up by
Davis?
Sacramento.
All right. I
And,
thought it was like Idaho or something.
Remember, it's Berkeley adjacent.
Berkeley
That's
adjacent,
right.
baby.
I just wasn't listening. That's
fair.
my
Most people don't.
You never hear
technique is
You never hear
just-
left-wing things being adjacent.
I'm just waiting for my turn to talk. So.
So I went back home, and I saw a buddy of mine, and we had this like hour or two long conversation about our beliefs toward the vaccine regarding certain government mandates or certain personal freedoms and the ideologies of social responsibility versus individual responsibility. And it was great because we like disagreed on so much within that narrow scope of conversational topic. But at the end of the day, we're friends. And we even said to each other, like, wow, this is great. We haven't had the opportunity to have an in-depth conversation with context, nuance, face-to-face expression with anybody for over a year. Because we've been isolated in our echo chambers of friends and Twitter and Facebook. And so now, like me coming home to see this guy that I grew up with, and we probably agree on like 90% of things. And then there's this 10% chunk that we just do not. And we have very different approaches to it. And both of us can reason our way into winning the conversation in our own minds. So there's no like, but like, it was great because that doesn't end our friendship, and it shouldn't. If somebody's pro-life and pro-choice, they can still have a good friendship. Maybe they avoid that conversation so it doesn't rile up emotions. Maybe they break it down so that they each understand where the other person is coming from. But at the end of the day, everybody's different. Everybody's got different brain chemistry. Everybody's got different upbringing. And there will never be a point where everybody's unified. It will always be a system of checks and balances and conversation.
Yeah.
And so the more that, the better, I think. The more you can just have that conversation with people.
Normalize face-to-face conversations because people don't usually disagree with you in person like they do on Twitter.
Right. Yeah.
Then they would get punched.
Right. Can you imagine having a Twitter conversation in person?
Yeah, it sounds like a sketch for the Babylon Bee.
Well, that would be, as a Twitter conversation, you're not talking to them, you're talking to the whole room like this, like, and then you retweet and talk,
Yeah.
Oh, man, that would be so annoying
Horrifying.
too if you were watching that in a bar and there's two guys arguing and everyone's shouting to you like this guy.
Yeah, they're like
shut up.
community theater guys.
Right.
Everybody monologues.
Oh man, that's the worst thing. The kind of theater, the guerrilla improv or something like that. Have you heard about that?
No.
Is this
Well,
a
I
switch?
came up in improv.
Yeah,
so
I know.
bad
I read
improv is
I read
bad.
that about you. You went to comedy school.
Yeah, technically, I paid my dues.
But yeah, for years ago, there was these groups that would go into like New York City subways and do improv.
No way.
And they would force it on people.
They would like busk
Yeah.
as improv
Like,
groups.
do they dance or something, or what?
No,
do
they would go and do improv
Scenes.
comedy. Yeah, they would.
But was
create
it comedy?
Yeah,
Was it actually funny?
I doubt it. It was improv.
Have you ever been to an improv show?
Yeah.
So I would imagine they do that in the subway, and it's awful.
Yeah, I don't.
It's like, hey, give us a word.
Turnip.
You. There's another one for you. Write that down. And then they'll be like,
Turnip.
You. Okay, let's do it, guys. Ready? Hey, John. Welcome to the mall.
Turnip.
You. And it's like that's their scene. And then they're asking for tips, and it's just
Somebody's like, "Can you give us a mundane everyday activity?" And everyone's like, "Improv."
God, it sounds awful.
Yeah. So, what was it like going to improv schools?
I had a great time. It was
Yeah.
so fun. I had just moved to LA, and I enrolled at UCB, the Upright Citizens Brigade, founded by Amy Poehler and a couple other people. Went through that program, all improv, and then I flipped over to Groundlings, which is a sketch-based character theater. A lot of people came out of there: Will Ferrell, Molly Shannon, Phil Hartman, Sherry O'Terry, and both were great. Both are like comedy nerd-wise. They're both different parts of my brain as a writer-performer. One is more intellectual, one is more silly and clown, and they both help me kind of develop comfort on stage and comfort in flowing through thoughts and ideas and creativity. So it was great. It was super fun. Yeah. But I will say, bad improv is like the worst thing to watch.
I would rather
great
sit through an open
improv.
mic.
Oh, 100%. Great improv to me is the funniest thing in the world. When people are just coming up with something on the fly and it works beautifully, and it's an explosion of like, oh my God, you never would have thought you would see or hear what you're watching. It's the funniest thing. But man, when it's bad, dude, it is bad. It is bad.
It's like freestyle rap. There's no in between.
Yeah,
That's right.
It's either really good or really
I watch
bad.
a lot of freestyle rap.
Do you?
Do you really?
No, I don't.
It's such a funny hobby.
It does seem like something he would do. I don't know. It does seem like.
I'm a freestyle rap connoisseur.
Enthusiast, yeah.
Can you freestyle as Eminem? No.
Not well. Not well. All that stuff is written.
Okay.
I could try, but it would not be good.
Well, we're going to go into our subscriber portion, move over into the lounge, put on our smoking jackets. We're going to ask you about some of the worst shows you've done, worst bombs. We like getting those behind-the-scenes stories,
Yeah.
road stories, things like that.
Who do you hate? What comedian is a real jerk?
Yeah,
For
name
sure.
some names.
Let me pull out my notes.
Call him up.
We're going to dive into that. And the rest of you, we'll see you. You should subscribe. BabylonB.com/plans.
You're missing out on this content. Yep.
And a book.
Oh, yeah. What a great book, too.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Goodbye.
Coming up next for Babylon B subscribers.
So then do you have like a worst bombing story?
Yeah. So I did a cruise.
At what point did you realize you're going to be a comedian?
But I was wondering, what are some things you think that people just kind of don't get about?
A lot of people.
Enjoying this hard-hitting interview? Become a Babylon B subscriber to hear the rest of this conversation. Go to babylonb.com/plans for full-length, ad-free podcasts. Kyle and Ethan would like to thank Seth Dillon for paying the bills, Adam Ford for creating their job, the other writers for tirelessly pitching headlines, the subscribers, and you, the listener. Until next time, this is Dave D'Andrea, the voice of the Babylon Bee.